Hey guys, today we're going to talk about thyroid. Thyroid, in my opinion, is one of the most poorly managed, mismanaged, improperly taken care of diseases that we have. Typically, you start with some classic symptoms, right? Inability to lose weight despite going to the gym and eating clean and going to Pilates, right? Energy issues, especially in the early afternoon, brain fog, concentration, anxiety, depression, constipation, diarrhea, problems falling asleep, problems staying asleep, or even you sleep fine, but you wake up, you're still tired. That's called wired and tired. Hair falling out, nails, skin issues, moody, no libido, sensitivity to temperature. And whether it's the first symptom or the third symptom or the eighth symptom, eventually you go to your doctor. And any doctor who hears those classic thyroid symptoms, what are they going to do? They're going to run some blood work, and typically your TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, is high. And what are they going to give you for a solution? Some chemical, right? Levothyroxine, Synthroid, Unithroid, Armor, etc. But the problem is 90 to 97% of you or more don't have a thyroid issue. Where does that come from? Well, that comes from the Journal of Endocrinology and Metabolism that says that 90% of patients with a diagnosed thyroid issue actually don't have a thyroid issue. They have an autoimmune disease. And if in your blood family you have someone who's been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, or there's a lot of people who have thyroid and or hormone issues, there's you or someone you know in your blood family has had fertility issues, even just one unsuccessful pregnancy, that 90% is the lowest percentage. So just statistically speaking, you have a 9 out of 10 chance of your treatment failing. In other words, not being correct. And so now, if you actually do have a thyroid issue, maybe that medication is going to help you. But if you don't, you have an autoimmune disease, which is also why Yale University just came out with a recent study which says 21 million Americans or more may be taking a thyroid drug that they don't need. Now, no one has permission, my permission anyway, to just stop taking your thyroid drug. That's a conversation between you and your prescribing physician. But, who am I and why should you listen to me? Well, again, my name is Dr. Wander. I'm an international best-selling author. I've been treating patients since 1999. International best-selling thyroid book is It's Not You, It's Your Thyroid. And I've spoken all over the world on this subject, from CNN on the left side of the aisle to Fox News on the right, ABC, NBC, CBS, Harvard, Mercedes, NASDAQ, you name it, I've spoken there. Why? Not because I'm such a great speaker, because a lot of people are suffering. Because just think about the stats. 90, 97% of you are being treated for a disease you actually don't have. And so the problem is, you need to be able to solve the puzzle, right? If you have an autoimmune issue, we need to figure out how many other triggers are things that cause you either to not function or feel well, or both. And there's roughly 59 different triggers that need to and should be possibly looked at. Not the same for everyone, but the current model of care you're in. I mean, think about your car. Your check engine light comes on. What do you need to do? Take it to the mechanic, right? So he can look under the hood and tell you what's wrong with it. But what you're really doing, you're not taking your car, your body, to the mechanic. They're giving you a chemical solution, and that's like you putting a piece of tape over the check engine light, right? You're not getting to the cause of the issue. And so there's a lot of failed treatment because you're not treating the cause of the issue, you're treating the symptoms, right? And that drug is not intended to fix your symptoms. That drug is to just normalize your TSH. Now let's talk about thyroid physiology real quick. Thyroid, so your TSH is made inside your brain and your pituitary, and that tells your thyroid to make T4. Well, T4 is the inactive form of thyroid hormone, okay? And it must be converted into T3. Pay attention. So about 85% of the conversion from T4 to T3 has nothing to do with your thyroid, which is why your 90 to 97% chance of getting better is not there. It's actually you're going to not feel better, which you already know this, right? So where does 85% of this conversion happen? Well, a lot of it happens in your liver, in your skeletal muscle. We also maybe need to check your adrenal glands for adrenal fatigue. Maybe you have leaky gut. Maybe you have fatty liver. Maybe you have toxins. I mean, for sure you have toxins. We just don't know which ones. Why? Because we're all exposed to toxins every single day. I mean, you and I were both exposed today. We'll both be exposed tomorrow. We were exposed yesterday, and we were exposed 20, 25 years ago. And the problem with toxins, and what you need to understand about your issue, is it's a cellular issue. So that active T3, it needs to get into the cell. So if like my hands are the cell, the T3 needs to get inside the cell. But if the cell is being blocked, the entryway is being blocked by toxins, then the active form of thyroid hormone can't get in there. Guess what doesn't address any of those things? Your thyroid hormone. And so we need to check the gut. We need to check your immune system. We need to check your liver. We need to check your hormones. We need to check a full thyroid panel. The majority of you don't even have a full thyroid panel, even though you don't have a thyroid issue, statistically speaking. So we need to figure out what's going on, right? And it's not just a simple, let me give you this pill. So if this makes sense to you, if this is something you want to look into further, first of all, I understand that what I've talked about so far is really general. This is not something specific that's for you, what I've talked about so far, but you probably want to get to the point where we talk specifically about you. So if you want to have a strategy session where you ask me questions, I ask you questions, I ask you questions about what's been happening before, what your goals are, and then we figure out as a team what your next step is, then hit the button below. Now, when you hit the button below, there's two different options. The first option is just to have a strategy session. If that's what you want, awesome, we can do that. That's $97. And I recommend that you do that so you can get more data about your specific condition. We also have an option where you can do the strategy session and do the toxicity test, because I know you have toxins, but what I don't know is how many you have and which ones you have, because certain toxins affect certain organs. And without knowing, how are we supposed to know? Now, the good thing about this $97 strategy session is we're going to put that fee towards the cost of any diagnostic testing, or it's already built into this toxin test. In other words, we've already taken the 97 off. So if that sounds interesting to you, awesome. We'll have a light conversation. We'll figure out if you jive with me, if I jive with you, if it seems like it's a good fit where we can work together. Hey, maybe we'll work together. If it's not, no harm, no foul. At least you'll get more data. So I look forward to helping you. Either way, I wish you nothing but good luck, and thank you very much.